Hey guys, hello everyone. Okay guys, please don't forget to turn your cameras on. Really need you to have them on. I'm gonna give you a couple seconds. Would you please turn your cameras on? You guys there? Can you hear me?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Please turn your cameras on. Nobody's. There. Guys, your cameras. Okay. Well, let's get started. So today we're going to be continuing to work on the speaking section. Remember that we said that in the speaking section, we got 4 different tasks. We went through the first independent one last week. We practiced that. And now it's time to get started with the integrated ones. So we'll start today with question 2. I wanted to say, I don't know if you remember, does anyone here remember how the timing was for the independent question? How much time you got to prepare and to speak? You guys remember? So it was 15 seconds to prepare and 45 seconds to speak. Okay, that's the time that you get for the independent task, the first one. Now, the reason that I'm saying this is because for all of the integrated ones, now that we're going to start seeing them, you'll get the exact amount of time, the exact same amount of time. So you'll get 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds or 1 minute to speak. Okay, the timing will be the same for all of the integrated ones. Starting today with question 2. So let's take a look. So first of all, in these questions, since it's an integrated one, you're going to have to summarize something. So they will provide you with some content that you have to summarize. Now, to be more specific, you're going to be reading a short text for 45 seconds. This is the first thing you guys do. You read for 45 seconds. Then you will listen to this audio file that lasts like 1.5 minutes. And finally, you get the question. All right, you get 30 seconds to prepare, 1 minute to speak. So read 45 seconds, listen to the audio file, and finally the question, 30 seconds to prepare, and 1 minute to answer the question, to summarize, to speak. You guys, do you have any questions so far about the structure overall? Okay. So let's look at the content now. So first of all, everything that you will have to do here is related to college life. All right, so to college life and how it works in the US. So in the reading, this text here is a university announcement. So it's an announcement that the university is making about a change. So there's something that's going on in this X university. It's no matter which university, but X university. So they are announcing a certain change. Something's going on. They want to change something. So it could be anything you can think of. They could be changing the menu of the cafeteria. They could be changing the bus service. They could be changing the dorms, the infrastructure. They could add a class, plenty of things that they could do, but it will always be like that. You will always have a change going on. So first thing you need to do is read the title. Now here we have music coming to cafeterias. So what do you guys think this change will be about? Any ideas? And what the change could be with that title?
Maybe the college is playing music at the cafeterias.
Okay, probably, very likely. It sounds like that. We're gonna find out. So once you read the title, you need to read the text. Now in the text, you will have three elements. So first of all, you will have a description of what the change is, usually at the beginning, but then you will have an explanation on why this change should take place. So reasons in favor of this change, why this change should work. Okay, so we're gonna be reading this text. Could anyone please read the text for us? Maybe Luca?
Okay. Mary Dixon, director of the Student Life Commit, announced yesterday that beginning next semester, university cafeterias will broadcast classical music during mealtimes. Music will foster a more relaxed atmosphere, said Dixon. The students' lives are hectic, and mealtimes provide important opportunities to take a break and catch up with friends before moving on to the next class or assignment. Added Dixon. We're also hoping that if we provide the music, students will unplug their personal music devices, their Walkmans and MP3s players or whatever, and we'll spend more time talking to each other. Then students have their headphones on, they're not connecting with each other.
Okay, thanks so much, Luca, for reading. So, by the way, any vocabulary, any new words here?
Hectic, I didn't. Hectic.
Okay.
I didn't know what that means. What
okay.
is?
So hectic means there's a lot going on in a student's life. So like there's many things taking place. It's like crazy a little bit in Spanish. The translation, I think it's frenético. So students' lives are hectic. They're crazy. There's so many things going on in their lives. So that's hectic. Any other word?
No, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So as you can see, were we right about the change? I think we were right. So the changes, university cafeterias will broadcast classical music during mealtime. At the beginning, that's the change. We were right. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but here they are explaining why they should do this or why they want to do this. And they give a couple of reasons. So how many reasons do we have? How many reasons do you see? Anyone? Orlando, how many reasons would you say we have here?
I would say at least two.
Great, that's right. So there are exactly two reasons. And that's the way that it's always gonna be, okay? So the good thing about this test is that most of the time you know what you're facing, you know the structure of the question, so you can practice. And it's easier for you when you know what you're looking for, right? Because if you're not sure of how many reasons you need to find or what's going on here, then it's harder. But when you know, it becomes way easier. So it will always be like that. You have a title announcing the change, maybe a short explanation on what the change is, and then you will always have two reasons in favor of this change or two reasons why this change should take place. Now, can you guys tell me what those reasons are? Anyone? Barbara, what's the first reason?
It could be to have the one that says music will foster a more relaxed atmosphere.
Perfect, that's right. That's the first reason. Okay, what about the second one? Jimena, what's the second reason?
The second reason is hope if we provide the music, students will unplug their personal music.
Okay, yes. I mean, that's what will happen. But what does that mean? Why do they want students to unplug their personal music devices?
For stay connecting with other people and stay with MP3 players.
Perfect. Here you go, Jimena. Nice. So yes, that's the second reason. They want students to unplug their MP3 players and connect, talk to each other. So those are the two reasons. They want a more relaxed atmosphere for students because they think that their lives are so hectic and they want them to connect with each other too. So that's why they're planning on playing classical music in cafeterias. And that's it. That's the summary of the reading. You will always have this. One thing you can do is maybe try to divide this text into two. Usually in the first part, you'll have the first reason. And in the second part, if sometimes you have a transition in there, you'll have the second reason, okay? Now, what you need to do, and I wanna be real clear on this, you only have 45 seconds to read, which is enough. It's not that long, and you are allowed to take some notes. So you need to have this in mind. You gotta summarize this as much as you can. You need to forget about all of the other details, like for example, the name of the director, the student life committee, when this was announced, when the change will be implemented, where, or maybe the examples of the MP3 players or Walkmans or whatever. You gotta forget about all those details. And in your notes, you need to write down a couple of words that tells you what those three elements, okay? The change and the two reasons. So I would write down something like classical music, meal times, relaxed atmosphere maybe, and connect. And that's it. Those are your keywords. That's everything you need. That's everything you're gonna use in your response. Okay, please forget about everything else. So you gotta forget about the details, let go of them, and focus on those three elements. Do you guys have any questions so far? Remember, this is just the reading part, the first 45 seconds. Any questions? Feel free to tell me if there's anything you want me to go through again or that's not so clear. Okay. Well, then after you read, the 45 seconds are up, you will listen to this conversation. So you listen to this conversation where two students are going to be discussing this change. They're going to be arguing about it. Well, not arguing, they're going to be giving their opinion on the change. And the thing is that one of these students is going to have a strong position on this change, on this idea. So this student could be either against the change and be like, well, that's a terrible idea. It's never going to work. I hate it. or the student could be in favor, which is less common. So the student could be like, I actually like the plan. I think it could work. And this is why I like it. So you need to listen to that conversation. You need to take notes as you listen. And you gotta focus on first thing, identifying if the student is in favor or against. You need to pay attention and see what the student thinks. And second, you need to find other two reasons that this student gives supporting that position. So if the student is against, the student will be opposing these reasons. So we'll be like, well, I don't think we're gonna have a more relaxed atmosphere for this reason. And we're not gonna connect with each other for this or the reason. Or we shouldn't be doing this for this reason. All right, so you will have other two reasons against this change, probably. Or you could have other two reasons in favor of it. In case the student likes the idea, you will have two more reasons in favor of the change. But that's not that common. It's very likely that you guys will have a student who's against the idea. Okay, but either way, you need to identify that. Okay, the student is in favor, against, and then look for the reasons that they give. Here, when you're taking notes, you can be a bit more, you can go a little bit more in detail. It's fine. You don't have to summarize it as much as here, because you're actually going to explain a bit more about the listening. So that's what you need to do when you listen. Any questions before we listen to the conversation here? No? So please grab a piece of paper and a pen that you can use to take notes, and I'm gonna play the audio file for you. Let's see. Tell me if the student is against, in favor, and the reasons they give.
Now listen to two students discussing the university's plan.
Did you read this article? Are they serious?
Yeah, I think so. Why?
Well, first of all, a lot of kids aren't looking for a relaxing break at lunchtime. They like to study while they eat, especially if they have exams coming up or some assignment they have to get done.
Yeah, that's true.
And now they won't be able to concentrate. This is going to be very distracting.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point.
And second, most students don't like classical music.
It's certainly not what I listen to.
So are people going to stop listening to their own music?
No.
I think people are going to be even more likely to bring their MP3 player, to play their own music and block out the classical stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The man expresses his opinion of the university's plan. State his opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
Okay. Now, before we go there and discuss what the listening was about, does anyone remember what the question was at the end of the conversation? What was the question? Do you guys remember? Did you catch that? Or at least how it was like? Okay, so the question is this one, okay? It's always gonna be the one, and that's why I'm writing it down. So it is, the man expresses his opinion about the announcement, state his opinion, and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. Okay, that's the question. So we're gonna come back to this later, but right now let's talk about the listening. Okay, so first of all, could you tell me which was the student that had the strong position? Was it the male student or the female student? The man or the woman?
It was the male.
Great, so it was the male student. Now, was this student against or in favor of the idea of playing classical music?
He was against.
Good, he was against. Now, can you guys tell me why? What was the first reason? What does he have to say about having a more relaxed atmosphere? What can you tell?
The first reason is because distract the students in the cafeteria.
Good. Yes, this is going to distract students. Anything else?
That not everyone likes classical music.
Okay, nice. I think that's the second one, right? Not everyone likes classical music. And what does that mean? Or what's going to happen? Okay. Maybe we can add a little bit more here. So if not everyone likes classical music, I think that what the student says is that they will actually bring their MP3 players even more because they want to black out the music. So they're not really gonna connect. So they're not gonna connect, they're gonna play their own music. And here, that's also true. They don't want this atmosphere, this relaxed atmosphere. They want, this is gonna be distracting for them, especially when they are actually preparing for exams or tests or completing assignments. So that's what they want to use that time for. They don't want to relax, they want to continue working on their stuff. So those are the two reasons. Okay, maybe we could say assignments, something like this. Okay, so that's how your notes should look like. You don't have to have everything written down, but at least some keywords to help you out when you're speaking. Okay, by the way, one tip I can give you right now, when you guys are taking notes, as soon as you identify if it's a male or female student, or maybe in the question too, when you listen to the question and are like, okay, the man, so I need to focus on the man. So when you're like that, try to write down the pronouns. Okay, so write down in big letters in your notes, he or she if it's a female student. And I'm saying this because a lot of times when you're speaking, you tend to get mixed up with the pronouns. And you don't know if it's he or she, or you mix them up. I've seen that a lot. So try to do that as well. That's one tip. Okay. Okay. So, all right then. Now going back to the question. So as you can see, interestingly in the question, they only ask about the student, don't they? They only ask you about the student. They're like, the man expresses his opinion, I state his opinion and his reasons, but they don't say anything about the university, the reading part. So this was not always like this. In fact, the question used to be different before they changed the TOEFL. The question used to be this one here. I'm gonna show you. This was the previous question. It used to say, the man expresses his opinions and think, briefly summarize the proposal, then state the man's opinion about the proposal and explain the reasons he gives. So before they changed the structure of the test, they used to have this part, briefly summarize the proposal. And the reason why they drop it is because most students were tending to like talk a lot about the listening, a lot about the reading and forget about the listening part. So believe it or not, they would spend like 40 seconds just summarizing these, focusing on details and stuff. So that's why they cut it off. But I really recommend, even if they don't specifically ask you to summarize the proposal or the announcement, I really recommend you guys do. And we're gonna do that in our template. So very briefly, we're gonna summarize these and it's gonna be like the introduction of our response. So you will see what I mean. So here's the template that I got for you. It's a pretty simple one, but the important thing of this template is not the words, not the transitions I'm using or the verbs I'm using, but the structure. That's the only thing that I actually want you to keep. So first thing, we will have this introduction, which is gonna be short, as quick as we can, at most 15 seconds. I really want you to hurry up there, okay? Now, in the introduction, here's what you will do. You will summarize the reading. So you will tell me the change. And if you were gonna see this, it depends on the student. But if we have time, we're also gonna include the reasons. So first, when I summarize the change, you can start by saying something like, the university, and here you can tell me the university has decided to, and here you need the infinitive form, right? A verb in the infinitive form. So the university has decided to play classical music in the cafeteria, or is planning on, and here you need a gerund. So is planning on playing classical music, or maybe has made the decision of, in another gerund. Or if it's a suggestion, if it's a proposal, so they haven't really decided yet, they're just proposing. If it's a suggestion, then you can say suggest to, and you need infinitive form. Okay. So you can use one of those. I know I'm giving you too many options. Maybe my suggestion, go for this one here. If it's a decision, has decided to, because it's the simplest one. And it has good grammar. It has the present perfect. So when you're trying to show grammar, it's good for grammar. Or this one if it's a proposal. Okay. So you can say the university has decided to broadcast classical music during mealtimes. And that's it. That's your introduction. That's the change. You don't mention any details. Now we're gonna see this as we practice. You will see it tomorrow. So tomorrow when you're practicing, tell me if you usually have extra time at the end, or if you actually run out of time. If you run out of time, then you don't have to include the reasons. But if you have some time, then include them. Go ahead and do it. And we're also gonna see these during the speaking sessions, okay? But for now, we can add that. So we can say, the university has decided to broadcast classical music in cafeterias since they want to create a relaxed atmosphere for students and they want them to connect more with each other. So as you can see, it's just one sentence, 15 seconds at most. Okay, so that's the introduction. Any questions so far? Okay, well, then you need a transition. You need this short transition in which you're gonna have a transition word, in this case, meanwhile, and you're also gonna tell me the student's position. Now, this is really cool. It's actually, I suggest you tell me the position there so that you don't repeat it all over again. I've seen many people waste time and they include them here and they're like, well, first the student states that this is not a good idea, this is not gonna work, and then they explain. And then the same here, right? She believes or he believes that, I don't know, this is not a good plan for, so don't repeat it too much. Say it once at the beginning in the transition and then you're done, okay? You can say, oh my gosh, I deleted everything. Okay, well, this was the introduction, 15 seconds, right? I'm so sorry. And here's the transition. Okay, so what I was saying is just use that, that time to mention the student's position. You can use this word, advocate, which basically means agree with this idea. So the student doesn't advocate this idea, it means the student doesn't like this idea, the student isn't crazy about this, the student doesn't think this is gonna work, thinks that it's a terrible idea, is not in favor of this. You can change it if you want. Advocate sounds, you know, it sounds better, maybe more academic, good for vocabulary, but you can change it. And the transition, meanwhile, I like it because it works for both. No matter what the position of the student is, it's gonna work. So you can say, meanwhile, the student loves this idea or the student hates this idea, and it works. Because if you were to use like, however, for example, it wouldn't work for both, right? You cannot say, however, the student likes this idea. So that's why I use meanwhile, but if you feel like it, you can use another one. It's fine. Just try to have a transition and try to tell me the student's position. That's 5 seconds again. Yeah, so any questions about that? No? Okay. And then you need to start talking about the student. So here you focus specifically on the conversation, on the student that has the strong position, in this case, the male one. So I'm gonna say he. And you need to summarize the reasons for me. So you tell me, you use a transition, you're gonna have to use these reporting verbs. So these reporting verbs that you didn't use before, you need to use them because you're acting like a reporter here, okay? If you don't use them, so if you say, first, this is not a good idea, and then you say, first, students don't like classical music, then it's like if it were your idea, and it's not your idea, right? It's something that the student is saying, it's the student's opinion. So you need to act just like a reporter and tell me, well, the student says, the student thinks, but for vocabulary purposes, I'm gonna use other reporting verbs, right? I'm gonna say the student states, believes, points out, argues, claims, explains. So I'm gonna send you a couple of them, but you can take these ones here. Okay, Andrea says that she can't hear me very well. Is that right, guys? You can hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah, I can hear you, teacher.
Okay, so it must be your connection there. Maybe you can try checking it out. I thought it was mine because most of the time it's mine, but okay. So try to use those reporting verbs is what I'm saying. And try to have them in the simple present, by the way. Okay, up there. So don't tell me the student stated, said, thought, believed, mentioned. So make them in the simple present because these are opinions, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard the news, but usually when you're reporting opinions or facts, you use the simple present. So it's better that way. It's like the student believes this and he's gonna continue to believe it. He probably believed that during his whole life. So we just gotta keep it that way. So those are some comments on the elements of this template, but you don't really have to know all that. As long as you memorize the template or create your own one and then memorize it, learn it by heart, then you're fine. You don't really have to know all that. So you have your transition. You tell me, first, he states that, and you summarize the first reason he gives, right? So he states that, what is this? He states that this could be a distraction for students as they are not really looking for a relaxing atmosphere. Instead, they would like to prepare for exams and use this time to maybe complete assignments. And then you move on to the second one. You tell me, in addition, he believes that some students don't like classical music. This means that they are even more likely gonna bring their MP3 player and music devices to black out the classical music, resulting in, or therefore, the university's goal of having students to connect with each other won't really be achieved. And that's it. I summarized the two reasons. I did that in like 20 seconds each one. Can be different, but sort of the amount of time that it would take you to do it. So, and that's it. You're done. You don't have a conclusion. You don't need one. But if you have extra time, then why not? You can say something short. You can say clearly, or as you can see, the student clearly disagrees with this plan, or the student will have, I don't know, maybe the student is not in favor of this. You just repeat, so, or maybe all in all, that's why the student doesn't feel like this is a good plan tomorrow, or that this plan shouldn't be implemented or shouldn't go through. Something like that. Only if you have extra time. Okay, but generally this is what you need. Your introduction, your transition, and the two reasons. If we want to look at time, then one good way to remember this and to organize it in your timer is 20 seconds, the first 20 seconds for the intro plus the transition, the following 20 seconds for the first reason that the student gives, and the last 20 seconds for the second reason that the student gives. Right? So 20, 20, 20. Easy to remember. Do you guys have any questions now? No. Really? No questions, comments? Okay. So here's a timer. Is there anyone by any chance who would like to try this? We already talked about what this is about. You just need to put everything together and try to make it on time. So is there anyone who would like to try? Or maybe you want me to go first and then we'll do another one with you. Anyone wants to go? Okay, so I'll do it so that you can see the timing part, and then we'll do another one with you guys. Okay, so here it goes. I'm not sure if I remember, I didn't take notes, but let's see. Okay. So the university has decided to play classical music during meal times, since they want students to have a more relaxed atmosphere and they want them to connect more as well. Meanwhile, the student in the conversation does not advocate this idea. First, he states that this could be a distraction for some students. He mentions that most students don't really want a relaxed atmosphere. Instead, they would like to prepare and use this time to maybe complete assignments and move to their next classes. In addition, he believes that not everyone likes classical music. Therefore, they're even more likely to play their own music, put their headphones on in order to black out the classical music playing behind. This means that the university's goal won't really be achieved. So this is why the student in the conversation thinks this idea won't work, or this plan won't work. As you can see, it's not exactly 20, 20, 20. If you can do it in less at the beginning, less than 20, the intro and the transition, it's even better, so that you have more time to explain the other one. Try to look at the timer too, so that you can organize your time, see how you're doing, see if you need to maybe rush a bit, or you can take your time, do the conclusion. So you have to look at your notes too, but you can do it like. So do you guys have any questions now? Okay, guys. So we're gonna practice. We're gonna do one. I do have some tips, but maybe we can talk about that when we're practicing in the speaking sessions. One thing I wanted to say, and I think it's important to say this. So sometimes the structure, well, not the structure, but the content could be a little bit different. The structure is always going to be the same. One change, two reasons, and then two other reasons in the conversation. Sometimes, for example, one thing I've seen commonly is that this is not an announcement coming from the university itself. It's a proposal made by a student. So it's a letter that a student writes. For example, this one is one of those cases. As you can see, they say, university should pave running trails. And then they say, I believe these trails should be paved. So this I here is somebody, a student from the university. So in this case, it's a proposal. It's not a decision. It's a proposal that one student is making. Okay, try to identify those. It's not that big of a deal. Honestly, there's no problem if you just say the university suggests to pave the running trails. Won't be a big deal. But if you want to be a bit more accurate, more precise, then perhaps you can change that. And instead of saying the university, you can tell me the student, right? So the student from the letter suggests to play classical music in the cafeterias in order for students to be relaxed or whatever. So everything's still the same. The only thing maybe the way that I'm referring to the text, right? Instead of saying the university, I could say the student from the letter. But it's the same. So yes, that's something I could say. What else? Not gonna lie, I've seen, like, from all of the practice sets that I've seen from the official ETS, the past tests and all, I think I've seen one or two situations in which the structure was a bit different. So instead of having a change and two reasons in one task that I've seen, you had a problem and two suggestions. So there's this problem, and I suggest we do this one and these two things. And then everything was the same. The student in the conversation was against. He had two reasons opposing to those suggestions. So nothing really changes. You just change the words. You say, so the student from the letter acknowledges this problem and suggests these two things. Meanwhile, the student in the conversation doesn't advocate this idea first and in addition. So I wouldn't worry. If you guys practice from official past exams, you will notice that it's always going to be like this. If you practice from other unofficial websites, then yeah, maybe it could be a bit different. But in your real test, it will be like this, I promise. So any questions now before we do want to practice? Anything to say? You really don't have any questions? Okay. Well, in that case, we're gonna do this one here. Here's the reading part. You can see you can read it from my screen. You will have 45 seconds to read, and I'm gonna choose somebody randomly to go. So you gotta be prepared. 45 seconds to go, to read, sorry. Okay, guys. Now I'm gonna play the conversation. Remember, look for, first identify the students in favor against this proposal, and then look for the reasons they give. Let's see.
Now listen to two students discussing the letter.
Hey, Ted, you're a runner. Did you see this letter in the paper?
Yeah, I did, and I use those.
And?
I think it's a terrible idea.
How come?
Well, she really hasn't thought it through. Like, the thing about making them safer. What she's not thinking about is the long-term consequences of running on a hard surface.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's not good for you. It's too hard on your bones and joints. If you run repeatedly on a hard surface, it can lead to injuries, or that's what I've been taught anyway. It's better to run on a soft surface. It does less damage to your body.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so actually it wouldn't be safer. And her second point.
About changing the way they look?
Yeah, I don't think people will like it.
So they'd use them less?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main reasons people enjoy them now is it's a way of taking a break from the rest of campus, from buildings and streets and stuff. It's, a chance to feel like you're out in nature.
Oh, so you wouldn't get that effect anymore.
Right. It'd be just like you were on a regular street or sidewalk. It wouldn't be as relaxing.
Okay. And here's the question. Is the previous one? But just to quite close.
The man expresses his opinion about the proposal in the student's letter. Briefly summarize the proposal, then state the man's opinion about the proposal and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion.
Okay. So now you guys will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Starting now. Okay. Anyone who would like to try? Does anyone want to go? Should I choose?
Can I try, teacher?
Yes, of course, Jimena. Great. You can go.
Okay. The university proposed that change the running trails, and it decided because solve two problems. Encourage students to use them, and it connected with smart city. And it's better for the university to pavement the trails, the running trails. But the first opinion of the student, he disagree because it's not a good idea for the students. It's not safe for them. And the second reason is the people don't like because it's not connected with the nature in the meanwhile and in the recess for classes.
Okay, thank you so much, Jimena. That was great. Great first try. So you had the content, you summarized at the beginning the change. Perfect. So they suggest to pave the running trails. You talked about the two problems, safety and the looks of it. And then the same for the student. You were able to identify it perfectly fine. You follow the structure too and the order. Although I noticed that you took maybe longer than you should have in the introduction. So maybe we can try without the reasons. Okay, so forget about the reasons why they want to do it. Focus only on the change. So the university or the student from the letter in this case proposes to pay the running trails. And then directly move on to the student. Okay, to save time at the beginning so that you can explain better the other ones, the student's opinion. Don't forget the transitions. So instead of telling me, but the student thinks, or the first opinion of the student, tell me, however, nevertheless. And same thing here. Instead of telling me the first reason is and the second reason is, tell me, well, to begin with and moreover, or first and in addition. Okay, so don't forget your transitions. Careful too with the verb agree or disagree. Remember that you don't need the verb be, right? So you just say he disagrees. So those could be some comments, but I think you really are getting there. You have what it takes, the content, the most important part. Careful with those details.
Okay, teacher.
All right, guys. Anyone else wants to try? Does anyone want to try? Mm, Maybe Lucian? You there?
Teacher, yes. I think I am understand all now.
You didn't understand what? The reading and the listening, or what you have to do?
The structure.
The structure, okay.
Yes.
All right, but you were able to listen and to the conversation and read the
Yes,
text.
but I not understand well you mm, when you
Okay.
start and when you use the reporting in the first,
Okay.
and I think
All right, Lucia. So I'm gonna
in the local.
explain. Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna explain this in Spanish once very quickly before we go, and then you'll
Okay.
try. Okay, Lucia. So en español, primero necesitan una introducción, ¿verdad? Para dar un poco de contexto, para que todo tenga sentido, siempre tienen que tener una pequeña introducción.
Ujú.
Y en su introducción, aquí tienes que resumir lo más que puedas la parte de la lectura. Entonces, lo que has leído. En la lectura había el cambio que se está anunciando y dos razones a favor del cambio, ¿verdad? ¿Te acuerdas cuál era el cambio y las razones?
Sí, la parte del pavimento y todo eso, ¿no? Ajá.
Exacto. Entonces, tal vez al principio olvidémonos de las razones. Cuando practiquemos y practicamos en las speaking sessions, ahí vemos si las añadimos o no. Pero ahorita olvidémonos de las razones. Al principio en la introducción solo mencionas el cambio. Entonces me dices, the university, I don't know, has decided to do this change. La universidad quiere implementar este cambio o quiere hacer ha tomado esta decisión. So the university wants to pave the running trails. Quiere pavimentar la carretera para correr. Y
Sí.
después de la introducción, lo haces tan rápido como puedas. Después de la introducción, necesitas una pequeña transición. Y en esta transición, necesitas un transition word, que es este meanwhile de acá. Entonces, trata de decir meanwhile, que significa mientras tanto. Entonces, mientras tanto, mientras todo esto está pasando, hay un estudiante en la conversación que no le gusta esta idea. Entonces me dices eso. Meanwhile, the student doesn't like this idea. Esa es tu transición después de la introducción. ¿Ok? ¿Todo bien hasta ahí?
Ok. Sí.
Ok. Y después de la transición, me tienes que resumir lo que escuchaste en la conversación. Te olvidas de cualquier cosa del reading y te concentras en la conversación. Entonces, primero empiezas con la primera razón que el estudiante da. El estudiante en este caso estaba en contra del cambio, ¿verdad?
Ujú.
Y da dos razones. Siempre va a ser así. Siempre vas a tener dos razones en contra, dos razones a favor. Entonces, primero resumes la primera razón. ¿Te acuerdas cuál era la primera razón?
Creo que era que está pavimentado, mal pavimentado o algo así.
Ok.
No me acuerdo.
Ok, te voy a recordar. La universidad decía que iba a ser más seguro, por eso lo quieren pavimentar. Entonces, usualmente cuando entiendes el reading, es más fácil. El estudiante va a decir lo opuesto. Si la universidad dice que es seguro, el estudiante dice
Que no es
no,
seguro.
no es seguro, exacto. Y te dice por qué. Entonces, creo que él dice que no es seguro porque es malo para tus articulaciones y tus huesos. Entonces, eso tienes acá. Dices, first, the student states, el estudiante dice, sostiene, that it won't be safer, right? No va a ser más seguro. As, que significa por qué. It's bad for your bones and joints. Es malo para tus huesos y tus articulaciones.
Y tengo una duda. Aquí ya empiezas con el reporting, ¿no ves? Tú ya estás poniendo, ya ponemos ahí, ¿no?
Los reporting verbs son
Ujú.
estos verbos de acá. States, believes. Entonces
So,
sí, los
ok.
usas ahí para decirme lo que el estudiante piensa, lo reportas. El estudiante dice que, piensa que, cree que, pues me reportas eso.
Ok, y puedes decir, digamos, no sé, he said that y empezar, digamos, directamente.
Yes, I mean, puedes hacer eso. La razón por la que digo, por ejemplo, state en vez de
State.
said es para
Ujú.
que tengas más puntos por tu vocabulario, ¿verdad? Porque si dices said es muy común, entonces no es una
Ah,
palabra tan buena para mostrar vocabulario. Entonces puedes aprenderte esa estructura. Entonces di states en vez de said. Y
ujú.
hazlo en el presente simple. Entonces no pasado said, sino presente state.
Ok.
Y la primera razón. Puede ser una o dos oraciones ahí. Trata de resumirlo. Usualmente mi consejo, especialmente para ti, si para que se te haga más fácil,
Ujú.
dime primero aquí lo opuesto, ¿verdad? Si dice it's safe o it will be safe, you tell me. Acuérdate de este es un consejo para todos, acuérdense de los tiempos, ¿verdad? No me digan it's safe, it will be safe, right? Entonces, lo opuesto, ¿verdad? It won't be safe. It will be safe, it won't be safe. Y después explican por qué, si se acuerdan. Entonces, as o because y la razón. Entonces, es malo para tus huesos. Lo mismo
Ujú.
acá. Si dices va a ser más bonito, va a lucir mejor, so lo opuesto, right? So he believes that it won't look nice. Lo opuesto. Por y la razón. A los estudiantes les gusta la naturaleza. Entonces trata de resumirlo para que sea más fácil también. Y sí. Okay.
Ok.
Un consejo más que les puedo dar. Pueden al principio, obviamente en su test, no van a tener su template ahí, pero una vez al principio para que se acostumbren y se lo memoricen y también se acuerden de la estructura, pueden tomar notas en su mismo template. Entonces, si tienen el template hecho, traten de tomar notas acá. Incluso, bueno, es que depende. Everything is up to like what you think would be better for you. So, si de verdad tienen problemas en entender y después piensan que van a tener errores gramaticales y todo, pueden escribir ya las oraciones como las van a decir. Una oración acá. So, it won't be safer as it's bad for your health. Okay? As summarized and as concise as possible para evitar tener errores. Entonces, depende. Por eso hay que practicar, hay que ver. Pueden al principio tomar notas acá y poco a poco se van a acostumbrar a la estructura, se la van a aprender y luego les va a ser más fácil. So those are some tips. So is it okay, Lucian? Is it better?
Yes, thank you, teacher.
Okay, now I want you to try. Just give it a try. It won't be perfect, but what matters is that you're trying, and with practice, we're gonna get better. Okay?
Okay.
So ready, go.
Okay. The university changed paved running trails. Meanwhile, the student doesn't advocate this idea. First, he stated that it not safely runner because it will be problem in the body. Sorry, I forget us. In addition, he believes that not see good for the students. That's it.
Okay, all right. So it was something. You were able to mention the change. You understood the first reason. Maybe in the second one, you weren't so sure what the reason was. They talk about the looks, right? So, mi consejo, reserva las sesiones y podemos practicar ahí más detalladamente contigo, and we can work on that.
Okay.
But it wasn't bad.
Thank you. Thank you, teacher.
Okay, guys. So, any questions now before we go? comments, anything? Okay, guys.
Teacher, I have a question.
Sure.
Can we have a template with us, like in that day of the exam?
No, you can. So one thing you guys can do is you can, I mean, when they are like giving the instructions, you will have some time, right? Even a break. And so you can write down your template during, I mean, the day of your test, but you cannot take it with you. So when you're, I mean, if you take it in a test center, they are the ones that are going to give you like a piece of paper and a pen so that you can take notes. And if you take it at home, then you're going to need to show that your sheet paper, your whiteboard is in blank. So you can write it down in the moment where when they're giving the instructions, because it takes long to give the instructions. But I think that once you practice, then you have an idea of how it goes. Try to take your notes in this order. So what you can do for taking notes is like, okay, so you're gonna say change, I don't know, reason 1, and then reason 2, right? Reason 2, and then a student, and then again, reason 1, reason 2. So if you take notes like that, and once you have practiced, you will know that you have to use a transition for every part. So you start with a change, reason 1, reason 2, and transition, reason 1, reason 2, transition. So try to take notes in an organized way so that you know how the structure is and that you can look at your notes and realize in what order you should be giving the info. And yes, you need to kind of learn it by heart. But it's easier. It gets easier once you practice.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys. Any other question? Okay, guys. So whenever you don't get something, cuando no entiendan algo o no esté muy claro, díganme, okay? If you want me to explain in Spanish, that's fine too. Just let me know. It's no problem. Okay, so I will throw the survey now. Please don't forget to fill it out before we go. And I'll see you all next class this Thursday.
Bye, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye, teacher.
Bye-bye.